Okay, everybody, my name is Brandon Rudloff. I'm an instructional designer on the Lincoln campus. We have 2 one-hour sessions a day. The first hour will be on preparing to leave Moodle. We'll cover a lot of information on what to kind of do in Moodle to prepare to move it to Canvas, and then the second session will be kind of how to organize and create content in Canvas. If you have any questions, let me know, but for the most part, I'm going to be demonstrating and walking through a bunch of different things in both systems. So I'll go ahead and get started. So if you have access to, yep.
I can't hear him.
Can we turn this up?
Turn.
Is this broadcasting in the room or is it?
No.
Okay. I'll just have to speak louder. If you have access to Canvas, if you go to your dashboard, everyone should have access to a Canvas instructor course, orientation course. When you go into this, if you need to request a master, it's on the home page. A master shell will give you, you'll need one for everything you're bringing over from Moodle for each of your courses. So you go in and request those. But if you go into modules, and the very last section, there is a transferring content into Canvas. One of the things we're going to cover today is this Moodle to Canvas conversion chart that can be found in there. So if you open this up, this gives the details of what does and what does not transfer from Moodle to Canvas, what the equivalents are, and what kind of stuff you'll have to recreate.
Nobody's living in Canvas.
Nobody's caught up to you. I'm still trying to log in.
So the website you guys want to go to is mycourses.southeast.edu. Has everybody got there yet?
Nope.
My courses dot what?
Southeast.edu.
Thank you.
mycourses.southeast.edu.
Thank you. Oh, great, look at that.
Here's our fake course. My dog
Yes. So this is where he was talking. Oh, gosh.
You are right on dashboard, I think. They said modules.
Yes, we do.
Where are the modules? I clicked on dashboard.
Okay, then you find the orientation course,
Okay.
which is probably scroll down.
Is everyone signed in?
And then modules.
Yes, then click on modules.
Thanks, Lisa.
Oh, I couldn't log
So once you're in, you go to your dashboard. And then you'll have a orientation Canvas instructor course. You click on this. Within the home page, you have a link to request master courses if you need them and haven't done so. In the modules, at the very bottom, there'll be resources on how to transfer from Moodle to Canvas. Once you click on that link, there's a bunch of information here, but today we're going to focus on the Moodle to Canvas conversion chart. Once you open that up, it gives what the activities are called in Moodle and what their equivalent is in Canvas, resources on that activity in Canvas, and any special information or things you need to know about moving from Moodle to Canvas. So kind of one of the first steps you'll need to do in your Moodle courses is to compare what activities you have in your Moodle course to this chart to see if they're going to come over and how they'll come over and if it's worth rebuilding them in Canvas or transferring them through an import. So this would be where I would start with your Moodle courses. Any questions so far?
Yeah. When quizzes come over, do they come over with your questions and everything? You know, it's kind of like, is everything still connected?
So for the most part, there are question types that don't come over, and there's question types that have HTML issues because of how the two systems are coded slightly different. So when you bring them over, you will want to preview all your questions to make sure that A, they all came over, and B, they still look the way you want them to look. But for the most part, they come over fairly well.
When they come over, each question is assigned a point, so if you had different point values, you'll have to adjust them because they're assigned a full point for each question.
Okay.
Yes, in Canvas, your quizzes are graded based on question points, not a quiz overall total.
So if you have data from the publisher, like you had stuff that imported in Moodle from the publisher using those question resources, we have to go back to the publisher and get the Canvas equivalent? Or can we just try and import and see if it works?
So is it stored on a publisher resource or is it stored in a Moodle quiz?
Well, it's downloaded and it's in the Moodle shell that I've got for existing courses using the existing question banks to pull from.
So if it's a Moodle quiz, it should be fine. If it's a third party, you'll probably have to relink it.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull up a demo course that we have. So this would be kind of similar, a lot smaller than most of your courses, but kind of an example of things that you'd have and look for. Things of note that won't come over, this banner here won't come over correctly. Pictures in this area, as you could see in the modules, there's no pictures. It's all kind of links and headers. So this type of stuff will get transferred into as a page. So if that content doesn't make sense as a page, it's a lot easier to just not pull that content over and redesign your course how you want without these pictures and headers. Same with this right here. So this is going to pull over as a page. This is going to pull over as a header. So if that makes sense, you can leave it.
What is it in the Moodle course as, what you just highlighted, is that a label?
Yes.
So labels don't move over?
So a label will move over, but this picture right here will turn it, and this information will turn into a page. This picture and label will turn into a page because there's a picture, but your labels will come over as labels. Because in Canvas, since it's accessibility requirement and mobile accessible, all these things are just either labels or links. So it turns them into pages if they have more than a label would normally have. So if it's a long text, it'll turn it into a page too, because it's longer than the link requirement. So those are kind of some of the basic things to look for.
Can I ask a question? Did you
Sure.
say on quizzes that it would have to reassign point values for the questions?
So it'll automatically assign, I believe, 1 point
Okay.
for each question, and then you'll have to adjust them accordingly.
Gotcha.
So the two different forum types, if you're using the regular forums right here, they don't come over as nicely as these open forums, so I would recommend converting your forums to open forums in Moodle if you haven't already, because open forums is what transfers and is gradable in Canvas. Another thing to look out for is open forums in Moodle don't have a due date. So any forms you bring into Canvas, you'll have to remember to set the due date. Another thing is quizzes come over as practice and unpublished. So when you bring a quiz over, you will have to change it to graded and published if you plan on using it as a grading tool.
Could you say that one more time, please, about the quizzes?
Sure, they come over as practice and unpublished. So practice is you have 4 settings on your quizzes. You can do practice quiz, graded quiz, practice survey, and graded survey. So they come over as practice, which doesn't feed to the grade book. So if you want it to feed to the grade book, you have to change the setting to graded. And published is the same as hidden and unhidden in Moodle. So we've looked at this, decided what we want to bring
Can
over.
I add something? I don't know if anyone else in here uses journals, but they don't come over. So I know I'm English and some English people use it. And so it's to your benefit to change all those, it's painstaking, to assignments in Moodle and then they come over. Because otherwise you just lose, the journals don't come over.
Yeah, rubrics as well do not come over, so those have to be remade. So how to move a course. So to get your Moodle course, you go to
Seats in
backup.
front of the room, too.
I always uncheck this enrolled users. Go next.
So now we're in the Moodle course.
Yep.
Okay.
You're using backup.
Yep. So then here would be where you would unselect anything you know that's not going to come over or you know you don't want. So like I know I don't want this section, so I'm unchecking it. Anything else you don't want, you can uncheck. I'm going to leave everything else checked so you can see how it comes over. You click next.
Now, you wouldn't normally leave it this cluttered when he does he's doing an export, but he's leaving a lot of extra stuff there. Okay, guys, did you catch that, everybody?
No.
Okay.
So once you do this backup, you download it. You save it to wherever you know you can get it. Then you come into wherever you're going to import it into the system. You can use your sandbox if you're wanting to test something to see how it does. I don't recommend importing from your sandbox into a master because let me find So here's kind of a sample of what a master will look like. You have a home page set for you, a syllabus template set for you, and these navigations are set. Your sandbox won't have any of that stuff, so if you import into it, you lose all that and you'll have to set these manually, so I don't recommend importing into a sandbox, and if you do import into a sandbox, I don't recommend you move that sandbox to your master. If you do it into a sandbox, I would only do it to test like I'm doing right now. So here's kind of what a blank sandbox is going to look like. You scroll all the way down to the left on your navigation bar to settings. And then you'll have an option on the right hand side that'll say import course content. If it's the first time you're on this page, you may have a box that pops up with kind of a tutorial. If you close that, this box will show on the right hand side. You do import course content, choose one, and then Moodle is the second from the bottom. You choose your file that you just downloaded. blank. So here you have a second option. If you, for whatever reason, forgot to uncheck some content, remember now, you can check it here. It's a little bit harder to do in my opinion in here. But I'll check that and show you. Another option you have is to adjust events and due dates.
Excuse me, is there going to be a checklist we can follow to go through all these steps?
I don't know that there's a checklist. Let me look.
The thing to do is to be looking at that table he had on that shows you what comes over and what doesn't. And then when you're doing, before you do a backup of your course,
Checklist.
clean it up.
Yeah. But,
So-
we've gone through about 20 or 30 steps here. Is there going to be a list of these 20, 30
So
steps?
in those,
In case my memory isn't so hot.
yeah, so in that same resources area, there's a how do I import content from
Okay.
Moodle into Canvas document. So that'll, pretty much any steps I'm showing you today are in this resources area.
There's also going to be a video of it
All right, that'll help.
next week.
Yeah, that'll help, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've set dates in Moodle, you can shift some of them
So
using
we
this
can
feature.
Go back to that video and see.
You would have to know your course's start date and end date. So in this case, I'm going to go January 7th. To April 1st.
Brandon, we don't have to shift the dates right now.
No, you don't have to if you don't want to. You can.
Well, I mean,
I'm just giving a demonstration. So if you know your dates, course start dates, it's going to shift your assignments dates that it can. This will be helpful moving from term to term. Once you're in Canvas as well, the same feature is available, so you don't have to re-enter all your dates every time. Another useful feature here is substitutes. You can, if your course was offered Monday, Wednesday, and now it's Tuesday, Thursday, you can substitute dates and it'll move assignments from those with that feature. So once you have all this set how you want, you click import. And then it will, so if you didn't choose the select content, it would have just ran. Now I have a select content option, and this is where you can drop down and choose specific things that you want. I'm just going to select everything. But this would be where if you forgot to unselect something and you remembered once you were in here, you could unselect it specifically. So then that job is complete. And kind of here's how it came over.
Okay, how did you just go back?
I just hit the home button.
Home, thank you.
Yep. So for the most part, everything came over. Here's an example of that quiz that I was talking about. As you see, it's unpublished right now. It's got the little like Ghostbuster symbol. So if you want it published for students to view it, you have to click that button. But it is still a practice assignment. So to change that, you would go into the introductory quiz, edit, and you see the quiz type is practice quiz. You change it to graded quiz. Here's where you set your due date as well, because that didn't come over, but there's an until date. So this is open, close date essentially. and due date is what feeds to the student's calendar to give them reminders and things like that. So due dates are kind of what drive everything in Canvas. So the due date's probably the most important date. One thing I will say about until dates is that some people have liked the feature that Canvas, you can drag dates on your calendars. When you drag dates on the calendar, only the due date moves. So if your due date and until date are the same and you drag a date to make it due later, students will lose access on the until date, even though you say the assignment's not due till later. So if you have until dates, you'll have to manually come back into the assignment and change it, even if you drag it on the calendar. So it's just one thing to consider with your until dates.
I have a question about dates. If you have, say, I'm thinking at the beginning of the term, when I want something due, school starts on Monday, I want it due on Wednesday, but I know some students will be adding late, so the kind of until date is later. Do both those dates end up on my calendar or just the due date?
I believe just the due date shows up. So it would put any students that submit after would show as late when the grade comes in, and you can do with that what you will. You can give them a late grade or you can not. The until date is they'll no longer have access to it. Yep.
Do we have to put anything into the until box?
Nope. So let me look back at this course to see what I want to look at. What's after the introductory? So here was that label that I was talking about. I brought it over and it turned it into a page, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore. So that's kind of one of those things to look at and think, is that really going to make sense in the new system? Should I bring it over, or should I create something new to accomplish the objective of that label before?
What would you use in place of the label and do it, if you wanted to keep something like that?
So so it came over as a page, so it still came.
Leaving it as a page, let's say you wanted something you don't know for the students.
So this one came over right here. This is a label. You see I can't click on it. It's because that one has that picture that it turns it into a page.
Okay, so regular label with no image.
Yeah, so this one's still here and still works,
And
but
that's called label in Canvas as well?
let me look. It's text header, that's what it's called.
Yeah, I was going to show you.
But for the most part, you can see that everything came over. One thing will be your grade book, which is actually the assignments. So everything comes over as imported assignments, and you'll have to create your categories again, and then drag and drop everything into them. So this introductory quiz, it's up here because it was practice and I moved it to graded, so it automatically put it in this assignments. That's why it's there and not. And so see, this one's in practice as well and wasn't in the grade book area. So any of your quizzes that you import, you'll have to come in and look to see if they're practice or if they're assignments, and then change them according to how you use them.
Question in the back?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the import steps, and You may have addressed this, but I didn't hear it, about selecting a question bank and creating a question bank. If I already have question banks in Moodle, will those come through?
Yeah, so let me go into one. So you can see these question banks came over from Moodle. So they do come over. And then you're,
And to see the questions, you simply click on that?
yep, you click on it, you can edit them, you can move them to a different question bank if you want them in a different question bank. Yeah.
When the question banks come over, do they go to a central area of all the question banks? Or do they go to the question bank of that course?
It's that course, I believe.
So they don't directly, like, cross feed?
No.
The only thing I'm worried about.
Yep.
So back to these steps, do we set a default question bank or do we create a new question bank?
I think you can do either one. I didn't select any and it created these all themselves when I imported.
Okay, so leave these default settings?
Yeah, I just left the default
Keep our
setting.
current banks?
Yeah.
All right.
You had a question here.
Yeah, for the questions, with organization, questions and answers, does that feature the stories of conversions? Or do you have to go back and?
Some of it does. That's where you'll want to preview some of that stuff because there is some loss of some features with question, like you can't block questions so that an answer doesn't
I wouldn't say that.
isn't random and things like that. So it's kind of organized a little differently, but you can come in here and you create question groups, and that's how you set up your randomization. That you would create a group, put all your questions in it, and then say, choose X number of points out of this group of questions. So it's slightly different how it functions, so there's some cleanup involved in using random questions. Yes.
On my computer, I'm using Chrome, and when I try to open files, it says you're trying to launch insecure content from within a secure site.
Did you import something?
I did.
So is it a PowerPoint?
It is. Also, yes, there's PowerPoints and non-PowerPoints.
It's happening on both.
Yes.
So if you go to edit,
Okay.
let me see if this one has it or not. I don't see it there. I don't think I have a. I don't have a PowerPoint, but essentially Canvas is HTTPS.
Okay.
And all the converted PowerPoints are HTTP, so if you change the link and add the HTTPS, you can stop getting that message. So anything you're getting the message on, if you change the link to have the HTTPS, that'll fix that error for you.
Because the ones I have now are all for iTunes, because
Yep.
that's the way you
Yep.
had me do it. All
And we've
separate.
converted the iTunes to accept both HTTP and HTTPS.
Okay.
So-
Here I got the S.
The
Yeah, so-
iTunes server for a long time was HTTP, an unsecure server, and so we're getting all of our servers over to a more secure location. That's why we had to change all of the links and add that S.
Okay.
So all of your iTunes files have been copied and they're on the new version of the iTunes server. You can, basically you get rid of that just by updating the link.
Okay.
Yeah, the file just will still work regardless. It's just giving you an error message letting you know that you're going to what the system considers an unsecure site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So if we want to use a PowerPoint in Canvas, if we want to transfer one, how do we change that link? How do we update that link?
So you can update it prior to, you can
just-
update
you
it
just
now.
Go to the link and add.
Yep.
And do what?
Add
Just add an S?
Yep.
HTTPS.
Yeah, so here you just add the S,
Save it? Save it.
Okay.
and that solves it. So you can do that in Moodle now, you can do it once you transfer to, so it functions in both systems with the S.
So if I open it in Moodle and it opens a tab and it's there and I add the S, it's going to stay there from then on?
Yeah, so if you edit it in Moodle, it'll stay forever. You'll be good.
Do something that can do that.
So it's not opening it up in like a window like that, it's editing it, your link in the course.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
You had a question?
Yeah, so each question gonna come in with 1 point. How do I change that? So suppose instead of 1, I want 5 points.
Okay,
Yeah, that works.
so in the introductory quiz, I click edit. I go to questions. I edit this question,
Okay.
and I change the point value.
All right. That's not too bad.
And
Will Canvas work with Office 365, bringing in OneDrive and Forms and this kind of stuff?
yeah, so we have Office 365 and Google integration.
Google Drive.
Yep. And students can submit when they do the file upload on an assignment, it gives them the choice of a file, the Office 365 option, or Google that they can opt into to submit their assignments via any of those tools on the assignments.
If there's 3 Moodle classes that you're changing this for one Canvas class, is there a way that you can put both of those Moodle classes into one?
You can. I'm not sure how it'll merge it, but it shouldn't be a huge issue because I've never had it merge 2 things like it does in Moodle. If you import 2 classes, it like moves the same sections. In my experience with Canvas is it creates separate modules if they're not like titled the exact same thing.
We got a question from online. Can assignments be changed like the quizzes to practice so they don't show up on the gradebook?
Sure. I'll find an assignment here. Edit. So your assignment options are no submission. Actually, not graded. So that's how you would do that. And then your submission types, you have no submission online or on paper. One thing to note with Canvas versus Moodle is if you're in a traditional course and you have just traditionally manually created items in the gradebook for all your grading, that does not come over. And so you'll have to build an assignment for every item in the gradebook. The gradebook is based on assignments.
You may have covered this already, but I might have missed it. So if I had text in block inside one of those headings,
Yep.
on Moodle, I just did the import, it doesn't come over. All right, I get the title of the block comes over, but the actual text that I had in there that was shown on my Moodle page, say instructor information, none of that stuff came over. Is that how it's supposed to work?
So it didn't come over as a page, it just came over as the,
It just came over as the heading, and all the text that was underneath it didn't come over as anything. It just didn't come over. It's not there. Or I'm missing a step.
so it's this section you're probably talking about.
Perhaps.
This does not, this
Yeah, I
won't
mean,
come
I don't
over.
have a picture in there, I just, but when
Yeah,
you're in
it's
Moodle,
just-
you have a text block in there that you can put in information.
Yeah, so this is, the
That's the
section
same thing.
details right
Okay.
here. I'm looking at my course as well. And the section details do not appear.
So the
Oh,
heading
there,
comes
never mind,
over,
it
but
came over right there.
Details don't. Okay.
No, it came over right here, but it wasn't titled what I thought it would. So it's titled that section name, so it's titled week 1. If I look in here,
Well, mine came over like my contact information, my instructor contact information. That title came over, but none of the text that was under it came over.
When he clicks on it, nothing's in that box.
Yeah, there's nothing there that's empty. So I guess so, yeah.
Maybe we have to link it to a PDF, and then I have to come over, information come over on a page.
I don't know how your own is. Mine came over, mine's pages.
So yours came over as a page, and his might come over as a page. It has to click on pages and link it.
What's that?
On the far right, pages.
He's on pages. He's in a page. It's the way he wrote it initially, I think the way he wrote it in Moodle was the problem. Because when I wrote mine, I just did what they told me to do the courses. I think I'm trying to fancy, and I won't come over. So Bruce is really in trouble. Look at my, his name too.
Any other questions?
Can you tell us anything about how to set like weights in the grade book or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. So under assignments, once you create your groups that you're going to have weighted, you have these 3 dots on the upper right hand side, and then there'll be an assignment group's weight, checkbox, and then you can assign your percentages to each group.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Treat this as a picture. So when you go over here, you go to instructions.
So one other thing I will show you is, so like your sandbox is supposed to be an area where you can test different things and see how it comes over and try tools. So if you bring in content you don't want or you need a fresh start, how you go about doing that, you go to settings, and then you'll have a reset course content here. And it will pop up with a message telling you once you do this, it's permanent and there's no way to recover it. So only be sure to do this if you really want to. I do not recommend doing this anywhere but your sandbox, really. I'll show you kind of part of the reason why. So I wiped it, everything's gone. It reorganizes my bar here, so I have to do that. If you're in a master or term course, all of the stuff that is built here for like your home page, your syllabus, it wipes everything. So your layout, everything has to be rebuilt if you wipe a course. So I would really only use that in your sandbox or if you're truly starting from scratch and you're going to rebuild. Yep.
I attended a different training, different training, and just so I could have something to practice, I imported a course into my sandbox to mess around with.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that's why I don't have a grade book or calendar or anything, because I'm in the sandbox.
So we should have a grade book and calendar. So your grades would be where you would see student grades, and assignments would be where you set up the grade book. The calendar could be that you don't have the sandbox checked. So if you go to calendar, you
Check
can.
where?
Should be in your assignment.
So if you go to calendar, you can check and uncheck courses. So like I don't have any of my sandboxes checked. So they don't show up on the calendar unless you have them checked.
Where is that?